competitor. Like, couldn't remember. It was just really sad. But I'll tell you, great player and a super nice guy, always smiling. Man, what a good guy.
Isn't it nice when your childhood heroes or people that you really loved watching play when you were a child turn out to be just as good in real life as they were when you were watching them and hoping?
Well, my mom named me for Brian Piccolo.
Really?
That's who I'm named for. Different spelling, but
Yes.
that's what I was named for. And so my mom was always a fan of the story, and that movie touched her so deeply. That's who I was named for. So there's always a little kind of like, Gail was the right-hand guy, to Brian.
We do have a caller, but before we get to, it's Chris Harris, who's actually a guest host on the show. Brian, we recently seen what happened with Giannis and Panini and having some of the autos. I guess my question to you is when these players have the Leaf cards that they're to obviously sign and send back to Panini, and the off.
And we have a frozen John Newman.
He looks better frozen, I think. No,
I know, he's packed in ice. Anyway, so I think where John's going from is when we saw the Giannis thing about how he kept some of the Panini cards. Have you ever had that issue come up in Leaf where anybody's kept cards that you sent them?
Yeah, we've had amazing situations where every guy said the one-on-ones just happened not to be packed in the box. It was amazing. But we have a pretty good system for this. We chase the cards down hard. We have a high level of accountability. And if the player says, like, this 101 wasn't there or this number to 5 wasn't there and it's missing, we actually make them sign a sworn affidavit that the card wasn't there. And we keep track of those numbers. And if we ever see that card on the market, we will create an issue. But a great story, just this week, someone was nice enough to share with me that somebody posted on Instagram 500 Dwayne Haskins unsigned cards that Dwayne had said were stolen out of his car or something. And some guy posted them on Instagram saying, where should I sell these? And fortunately, I was able to recover them because I immediately contacted the guy and said, hey, they were reported stolen. And the guy was nice enough to send them right back to us. But we have to be careful of that, too, because you don't want autographs with certified copy on the back floating around unsigned. That's how you get some of the great frauds like 01 Legacy Pujols and cards like that. Well, so we work hard to avoid those kind of things because they will kill you.
Well, do you remember back in the day, and it was a second-level company, I forgot if it was Signature Rookies or some company like that, and they sent cards to Roy Rogers, who was a higher draft pick, and the person who signed the cards for him signed his last name wrong.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that over the years. And listen, we get Trinity inscription sometimes that we have staff that is very strong in the autograph authentication field. And we actually kill signatures because when they inscribe them, they'll have someone else write the inscriptions and they'll sign them. And we catch them trying to have someone else do like writing number 1 draft pick 2018. We catch that all the time. And if you see a guy pulled out of the set at the last second, that's usually what it is. He had someone else go through and write that because he didn't understand. The players don't understand that they have to write that also. They think someone else can write that. But we catch that all the time and make sure we don't have problems with that. But we've got to be on our toes because, you'd be amazed what you see over time.
Yep. And so one of the topics that we do have, with the pandemic, a lot of stuff is going virtual. Is this something we're going to see more, even after the pandemic hopefully is over sooner rather than later? You think this is going to be, with the success of them, say, hey, not everyone, maybe we'll have an in-person one and then we'll have a virtual event for those who can't fly in or attend. That way, the best of both worlds. You think that'll be something that'll stick around even when it's not necessarily a necessity anymore?
You want me to take that, Rich? You want it?
Well, I think we both take it up. I'll go first, and then we'll let you opine and go from there with your erudite manner. I think absolutely we will see more of that. I know, for example, at some point our synagogue is going to move, whether it's to a new building or to a different existing building. And one thing we've learned during the pandemic is we do virtual services now. We've yet to really open up the building the way we should. We're discussing whether we can safely open up for a smaller, what I call skinny card show in November. When I say skinny, it won't be anywhere near what I've normally done in the past at the synagogue, but we've all in agreement that we're going to have a mix of in-person and virtual, because it's proving to work and really getting interest. Like, for example, if I do a show on a Saturday and everything gets cleared up, I don't want to drive my car that's loaded up to the synagogue and have boxes of cards sitting where anybody can just take them. But if I can watch a service at home, that's great. And I think there's a lot of that going on. And I'm sure at the card show, I know I'm gonna way back in the day at Beckett, at the National, we would, with some of the people on the Beckett Marketplace, we would say, hey, if you want to sell your cards through the marketplace while you're at the show, we'll get them on the website and you can sell them, and it's another stream of income. So I think that's something that's very positive. Some people like face-to-face, and some people who can't be at a show because they're a long way away, or they don't want to drive. If John doesn't have shows in Syracuse, he may not want to drive the 4 hours to White Plains for a show. So I think a mix is definitely in our future.
Well, I think for trade conferences like the Industry Summit, 100% that can be done online. And I think if done well, and again, this year may be too short a notice to really pull it off the way it needs to be, but I think you'll have more interest in attendees online because it doesn't require the travel commitment when business is good and people really can't travel. So that I think is true. I will say the virtual card show, I think I actually hate it more than virtual cards. I think virtual cards have been one of my big, I don't like fake cards. They're called pictures or screensavers. Digital cards mean nothing to me. I understand it. I don't like it. It has no appeal to me as a purist who likes to touch cards. I think I hate virtual card shows more. I think really it's not the same at all. And honestly, as someone who goes to a Chicago show and spends $200,000 or $300,000 on cards, I just go on eBay. I mean, I'll be honest, the market's changed, and
I think there's one advantage to you is that I agree with you that going and being able to negotiate face-to-face and seeing the card in person is good, but you can't be everywhere. None of us can be everywhere. I know. But, especially for your repack products, the ones where you buy the PSA 9 Ja Morants and all the things like that, if you see cards at a virtual show that are encased already, I'm not talking about raw because that you really have to look in person. But if you see a PSA or a BGS or BVG or an SGC card or something you're comfortable with, you say, hey, I can buy that card at that price. And I'm comfortable with that. And I think it would enable maybe for your buyback products to have even more. That's my opinion, But I think it can work for you, but I think you're a little more, you like the face-to-face interaction.
Honestly, I found it to be clunky, like when I've seen the expo, and again, I like the expo. It's an event we do. I find those formats, and I even find the Industry Summit format to be a little clunky. These online formats, they're not clean. They're not quite as, and again, should they be? We just came up with these things to try to solve a problem. So I don't expect perfection yet. But to me, I think, let's take a hiatus from car shows instead of trying to rush it. I mean, first off, I don't think they're safe. There's an event down the street from me that is a decent-sized show that I didn't go to.
I know. I'm spent a lot of money. Hey, I can walk. You can visit me because I'm across the street from that office.
Yes, I employee went there for a few hours, and I'm just telling you, I don't feel safe. And we tell people not to gather more than 10 or 15, 20, 30, 50 people in a room and put hundreds. Are you out of your mind? It's not safe. I will tell you, we shouldn't be doing this. So I'm going to sit on the sideline and just spend my money elsewhere. I'm not going to encourage it right now. Let's don't be selfish for 6 months. Let's wait till we get our vaccine. We'll be back out there. When we're back out there, the demand is going to be so huge. You're going to miss me. You're going to run up and want to give me a hug once we're done with this.
Well, Brian, I gave you a hug. I might not be able to always get a hug around you, but let me read you an email I got back.
That's a little rude. But like I said,
I'm going to read you this email.
We'll have plenty of time to have kumbayas and go have a drink at the bar and have a meal together. We have plenty of time for that. Let's just get through the next 6 months alive and safe, and we'll go from there. That's all we can hope for.
Yeah, and one thing I want to piggyback off what Brian said. He hit the nail on the head for me as far as virtual cards. I mean, what is that? Like you said, it's a digital picture. I mean, you can make your own virtual card. You don't have to be a card company. You can Photoshop. I've never got the the concept behind it really. You either have the card or you don't. It either exists. It's either real or it's not real. And so I agree with Brian there. I've said that on my show. Like, what are we talking about here? We all can make virtual cards on our computers or even our smartphones. And either, when you pull a card, it's in your possession, or if you pull a redemption, at least there's something behind that redemption card that's supposed to get to you, hopefully in a timely manner. We know that's a whole nother show.
Well, I'll tell you what I do like, though. Panini doing blockchain where you get the real card and the blockchain card. That I can get my arms around.
Yeah,
because
you've
got this permanent record of the card that exists. That even if your card was burned in a fire, you still have a card. And I guess technically you take a picture and put it on the cloud, but you still have a card that's in a database that's, I think there's something to that, but I do like when they put the real card with it. I just don't like screensavers. I got plenty of those,
Well, you can almost anybody with the exception of me can probably make a screensaver.
All right. So the other thing, the big trend lately, they seem to be popping up each week, is the rise of the fractional share companies in the hobby. You got your Rally Road, you got Collectible, and now we have a new foray. It's called Alt. The latest one is being launched by businessman Lior Avador, and if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, he's probably going to be more known as the guy in the hobby that bought the last two big one-of-ones from Golden Auctions, the LeBron MJ logo man and the recent Giannis logo man. He's the owner of both of those cards. Went to his piggy bank and got out some change and made those purchases. And he's launching Alt, which is along the lines. I mean, I'm sure they all have their differences, but he's launching Alt. And so, what do you guys think of that, Brian? I know you've been in the industry a long time. Well, Rich too. All three of us. Like, what are your thoughts? I'll before you speak, I will tell you this. I did get active with Rally and Collectible. I haven't. Alt doesn't launch till October 1st. I did, not crazy, but I did buy a few shares on each of the first two platforms. Kind of, what are your guys' thoughts? And Brian, you can go first. What are your thoughts on those?
I mean, listen, I am one of the biggest advocates of trading cards as an investment / speculation. I've been preaching from the mountains for a year now that cards are an alt investment, that cards are artwork, and we really have to get our minds around seeing cards as something different. They're not just kids' playthings anymore. They outgrew that a long time ago, but we never really see it as art, as something truly, having those intrinsic qualities. I think it's hard for some people to get their arms around that. I've been preaching from the mountain. So you got me at investment speculation, fine. I think this is and again, not going to be a popular opinion. I think fractional share ownership of a card like that is horrific. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I'll tell you why I hate it. Theoretically, I love the fact that you can own a piece of a Giannis 101 logo man. Love that in principle. Except, are they going to be able to provide complete liquidity? Like when you buy your shares, is it going to be like looking at Apple on level 2 on Ameritrade, where people are offering to buy and sell shares constantly, and you can push a button and you got your cash back? Or is this going to be an illiquid investment where some massive holder will at some point determine when you sell it? And I think that's a challenge to me in a market where there's such a wide range of products that you can invest in or speculate on if you choose to do that. And you can do it yourself. You're a baseball fan. You can watch the game and see who's good. And if you really don't trust yourself on which card to buy, between Gary Vee or me or a handful of people who are willing to give you their opinions for nothing, and they're probably worth what you're paying for them, but we're willing to give you our expertise and opinions for nothing, why can't you do this yourself? I guarantee long-term, you're going to be happier with the liquidity buying Topps Update Ronald Acuna's on your own, as opposed to buying 1/10,000th of the Giannis logo man. Because yes, that card could be $3 million, 100% possible. I believe that's possible. But in order to get a 50 or 60% return, you need to find a $3 million buyer, have a massive liquidity event, who's going to decide if you're going to sell it or not. And in the meanwhile, if Aunt Susie gets sick and you need to help pay the hospital bills, can you liquidate your shares easily with one push of the button at a fair level? And then who's going to determine that fair level? Will there really be enough liquidity? And I don't believe the liquidity is going to be there. That's my opinion. Now, if the guys backing these provide constant liquidity at a 5 or 3% margin, okay, fine, I'll buy into that. I'm not so sure it's going to work like that. So I would encourage people to think about tackling this on their own and saying, you know what? Giannis Prism PSA 10s, if you got $3,800 burning a hole in your pocket, they were $8,000 2 months ago. They're $3,500 now. Put your $3,500 into a Giannis PSA 10, because guess what? Not only can you hold it and show it off, your little piece of art, you actually get to hold it. Anytime you want, you can sell it. And if the market gets hot on Giannis for a week and they go to 5,000, boom, it's over. You're out and you made $1,200, $1,500. I think it's so much easier to do on your own. I think there's long-term a place for hedge funds and for funds of cards that are able to provide that liquidity. But taking a gamble on one card, I think is just, I think it's cuckoo, and I think the liquidity on single cards is going to be very hard versus a fund.
I think Brian's got it. There's pros and cons to this. I think this is one of these things I could put on my best Ben Wilson thing and just scream from the mountaintops, there's no such thing as an investment in baseball cards, and that's not correct. But if I were to ever to put my money in something like this, I would get involved in something that's an absolute blue chip of the hobby. I would get into a really high grade. I think there's a 53 mantle that's in PSA 10 that's been done. I'd get into a 52 mantle. I'd get into, let's say, a Jim Brown 58 tops PSA 9 or 10 or B, whatever. Because then at least, their greatness is established. Giannis, it's all wonderful. It's a $3 million card. Giannis is not guaranteed a Hall of Fame shot even. He's several years away from that. If he blows out his knee and never plays at the same level again, he probably becomes a Ralph Sampson minor Hall of Famer. And as such, you've now just blown your money.
So let me ask you a question. The 53 tops mantle on a PSA 10, with a 1 point, what is the valuation? 1.5 or 1.8?
I think so, yeah.
Rich, you got to have your head examined. If you think that card is a just screaming buy, oh my God, I got to buy 5.
I didn't say I got
to own that.
I was going
to be out of your mind.
I would put my money into a card like that, where at least it's an established blue or chip card, rather than a modern player who is not yet even guaranteed a Hall of Fame berth.
I'd rather see you put your money under your mattress, because then you can look under the mattress and check it out every once in a while. Because that card ain't going nowhere. They're cashing out at the top on that card. The young bucks who are buying cards, the young money coming in this business, they don't give a. And I love Mantle. I think he's underpriced probably. They don't care. They want young flash, and that's what they're going to buy. This is the top on 53 tops mantle. Now 52 mantle 10, one of those hits the market, I'm listening. That's different.
Fair enough.
The 53 tops mantle.
And I think you know where I'm coming from on this, Brian.
And we got Drew calling in. He wants to chime in on this particular topic. Drew?
Hey, what's going on, guys? First time caller, long time listener. Brian, Rich, what's going on? John, hope everybody's well. But no, I agree with you. I wanted to touch on this, and then I actually had a question for you, Brian. I agree with you a little bit. I've jumped into Rally a little bit just to kind of see what it's all about. When I had the guys on my show, and I've touched on it, I've thought in a little bit, but I'm a little concerned on, like you said, the actual true liquidity on everything. But it's an interesting concept, and I've noticed we've seen a ton of them pop up lately, which is that kind of scares me a little bit. But I think we'll see one of them settle in as probably the one to use if they actually stay. But Brian, I don't want to keep stay on too long, but I had a question for you when you were talking about the redemptions for this year. You were saying that you were holding out on a product because of so many people not being the top guys not signing. And that's awesome. And I love that. But it makes me think towards next year, because obviously, I mean, I know you guys are planning so far ahead. A lot of the stuff is already printed. You got to wait for the autographs. You got to do what you have to do. But what is going back to like the pandemic and the cards and everything? how is this affecting next year's layout for you guys? The stuff that hasn't been printed yet, I guess if you want to say your strategy, is it our products, looking at maybe having to be cut, what's up with all that heading towards next year, since we're already having so much trouble with this year's products?
Good question. We're rolling. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We're planning on having more products, slightly increased production in 2021. We don't see a problem getting the guys to sign next year.
Yep.
Again, a lot of this problem has just been the backup. And we sent cards to Minnesota for a guy, and then because of COVID, he ended up in another state, but there was no one in Minnesota to send him back to him. And he just got the cards last week after 3 months of sitting in Minnesota in some locked apartment. And it's just stuff like, it's just really fluky garbage that's COVID related. I can tell you, we have already started signing football players for next year. Kids that opted out, that are not playing the college season. We have executed agreements with multiple players already. So we're not waiting. And we're actually sending them stickers to sign now. Nice. So we'll actually have stickers before the calendar turns the new year from some of these players. But I will say, like, baseball players are returning cards beautifully. It's awesome. Really, football is the problem, really, and it's a mess. It's a mess. But someone just mentioned Justin Jefferson in the comments. That would be one we're having a real struggle with. And the thing is, I'm deciding, can I pull him out of Trinity football? Like, I was tempted to pull him out, but I'm like, people like him. But, like, if I put a redemption in and then I can't fill it, then people are going to be pissed when I try to replace it. And so this is a great struggle we have all the time. And as a collector myself, I have to figure out what is the right thing to do as a collector and as a business. And it's not always the same. And so you're 100% right. We got to be looking forward to that. We think we have next year navigated completely fine, no worries at all. Our biggest concern is just our ability to get stuff printed, because the print runs for every company are increasing. They are, to the extent they can.
Appreciate it, guys. And I won't keep the lines tied up. Guys, call in, and you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for the first time call.
All right, Drew, we'll see you. Hey, there's a comment from Josh Chandler, going back to the fractional shares. He says, I think only the economy of health affects the Mano value, where younger athletes are trade more on current performance. Current investors like the fantasy feel of the hobby. And, that's always been a thing with the DFS. And obviously